Professor Sheldon Wolin, the man who came up with the idea of inverted totalitarianism, died last week, the same week that U.S. political prisoner Reverend Ed Pinkney had his phone privileges and contact with the outside world taken away. What do the two things have to do with each other? Well, nothing. But also everything, but mainly nothing. It's one of those things that you don't realize they're connected at first. You know, like for example, your lawn maintenance guy quits on the same day your wife tells you she's pregnant, right? And you're like, Jesus, this is a crazy day, right? And then the baby comes out wearing a pair of gardening gloves, and you're like, this is some bullshit. That's why he left. Reverend Pinkney was a leader in the black community of Benton Harbor, Michigan. He was convicted last year by an all-white jury and locked away for up to 10 years for altering 5 dates on a recall petition against the mayor of Benton Harbor. Altering 5 dates. He wasn't like dragging corpses into a voting booth. He altered 5 dates. On the list of crimes, I would put that slightly below over-seasoning a curly fry. But it gets better. He didn't even do it. He didn't change the dates. And the prosecution presented no evidence. The prosecutor even told the jury, you don't need evidence to convict Mr. Pinkney. Oh, you don't, do you? Then what the f*** do you want them to go on? Vision Quest? A Ouija board? How about a Magic 8 Ball, huh? Hey, Magic 8 Ball, is this a kangaroo court designed to lock away an innocent black man? All signs point to, I ain't answering, or next they'll come after me. After all, I'm black too. I don't think that one's in the original. That's a special. They went after Reverend Pinkney because he was getting in the way of Whirlpool, the multi-billion-dollar corporation that makes your washer and dryer and that crap. It's headquartered in Benton Harbor, and they want to transform this economically devastated city into a private lakeshore playground for the wealthy. A playground for the wealthy. I assume that has like monkey bars so executives so they can play at the same evolutionary level as their empathy for fellow man. And I imagine there's also a seesaw that they allow the workers to use so they can learn how a pension works. First you see it, then you saw it. Bye. All gone. And Whirlpool was largely responsible for devastating Benton Harbor. Basically, they did a giant corporate butt scoot across the town, and then they turned around and said, smells like shit around here. You better sell it to us so we can clean it up. With Whirlpool having so much power, you might start to feel like we live in a totalitarian state. Totalitarianism, a political system where the state recognizes no limits to its authority and strives to regulate every aspect of public and private life. But Sheldon Wolin explained we actually have inverted totalitarianism, or inverted totes, as the kids call it. Under Nazi rule, big business was subordinate to the government. But now, it's the opposite. Our politicians have fully agreed to suck big old corporate dictatorship. In inverted totes, we're ruled by the anonymous corporate state. Whirlpool, for example, pulls the strings behind the scenes, corrupting judges and politicians, such as Michigan Congressman Fred Upton, the heir to much of the Whirlpool empire. But it's kind of like a ventriloquist who has a racist puppet. You know, you can only get so mad at the puppet. You gotta save your true anger for the fucking guy with his hand up its butt. While the Nazis tried to give the general public unity and strength in order to wage war, that's the opposite of our system, which promotes a sense of weakness, of collective futility. Just like, you look at Congress with their approval rating hovering somewhere around that of stomach parasites, and yet most of them get reelected. How the hell does that happen? And if you don't feel helpless when you look at that, there's something wrong with you. Whirlpool's new ad campaign is people just trying to make ends meet, you know? Just like tying a toddler's scarf around a warm bowl of oatmeal or whatever people do. And at the end of it, it says, every act of care counts. Well, we thought they got it a little wrong, so we fixed it up.
From the big ones to the tiniest ones. From the old ones to the young ones. Every political prisoner counts. Everyday fascism. Whirlpool.
What it lacks in warmth, it makes up for with subtlety. As Reverend Pinckney said before his access to the outside world was taken away, Benton Harbor is the testing ground to see what they can get away with. Wolin and Pinckney probably never met each other, but they became irrevocably linked when Pinckney became the latest victim of our corporate totalitarianism. Why didn't you see that coming, Magic 8 Ball, huh? Huh? What am I paying you for? But luckily, he is so insubordinate. But luckily, there is one thing corporations like Whirlpool care about, their brand name. So tweet at Whirlpool USA and tell them to free Reverend Pinckney, because every act of fascism counts. And then press your junk against your dryer during the spin cycle just to show it who's boss. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., the belly of the beast, this is Redacted Tonight. Welcome to Redacted Tonight. I'm your host, Lee Camp. Now let's take the news from behind. This week, some people in Denver did something really cool. They built micro homes for the homeless. Tiny, one-room places for people to live in if they've got no other option. They did it for free with no benefit for themselves. I would say it's a Christian thing to do, but I guess that depends on what kind of Christian we're talking. Do you mean the feed the hungry, care for the sick kind of Christian, or the jail the immigrants, beat the gays kind of Christian? Someone says to me, I did the Christian thing. I don't know if they're going to show me an orphan they adopted or ask me to help them bury a body. It's touch and go, you know? I did the Christian thing. Oh, God, what'd you do? I'm not going to burn my fingerprints off for you. Anyway, people built tiny homes for the homeless. The city of Denver then did the Christian thing and sent in riot cops in military gear to destroy the homes and arrest the builders. Apparently, the city of Denver thinks that you have to treat the homeless like you're in a time travel movie. Don't change anything. Don't help anyone, or else it could have consequences in the future. You know, you help a poor person and then your mother disappears from a photograph you're holding. Do I know I mixed my Bill and Ted reference with my Back to the Future reference? You're damn right I do. If there's one thing we like here in America, it's competition. And right now, there's a competition among the states to see who can treat poor people the worst. Daytona Beach, Florida made a strong move to the hoop last year by arresting a 90-year-old man for feeding the homeless. Someone's been training in the off-season. But then San Francisco stepped up their game a few weeks ago when they announced an app that allows residents to more easily report the homeless to the police. One can only hope it's called HoboCop. But now Denver is running away with the game with this demolition of these micro homes. Let's get ready to crumble! Homes for the homeless. Denver has quite a winning streak going. You might remember back in 2012, the Denver SWAT team was called in to arrest people occupying a home while the bank tried to foreclose on it. The Denver police really have their hands full making sure the city's residents don't have roofs over their heads. You know, you really can't be too vigilant. You look away for 1 second, boom, someone's housed. Now let's move to the only story the establishment media is willing to talk about: the Republican presidential candidates. If you were paying attention this Wednesday, you probably watched CNBC's televised diseased cockfight between illiterate clowns raised on a diet of paint chips and asbestos that then spun around until dizzy and unleashed on the American public. I may have mixed my metaphors, but I imagine it only made the sentence more accurate. Only one person can bring calm, collected reason to such chaos. Redacted correspondent John F. O'Donnell filed this report.
So apparently, Redacted Tonight sent me to Boulder, Colorado to cover the Republican presidential primary debate. But before I knew it, things got weird.
Captain Hydrogen!
Oh, man, I spent all night on the Ben Carson party bus. Yeah!
He is black, obviously, and he can bring us back together again because he is a good man. He is an honest man. He is a smart man.
He's a constitutionalist. He believes in the founding of this nation and how it was founded and why it was founded.
Ben Carson 2016! I knew I had to get to the Coors Event Center where the debate was taking place, but the temptations of unbridled hedonism were abundant.
Lindsay, I think you're the best. Lindsay, you're my favorite. You have the most experience on national security, and it's ridiculous that you're on the undercard. And I'm tired of people saying, oh, there's not enough room for all the trolls underneath the bridge. Can I get a walnut specialty dart? Can I get a walnut specialty dart? From the center? It would be the coolest thing.
You're a good man.
It's so good to meet you.
Do you work here? You go to school?
I'm just a guy. All right, well, you're a one percenter, but just a different type of one percenter. You know what I mean? You know you got to let that settle first. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you, Lindsay. It's a shame what's happened is fracturing in the Republican Party, because you can't just be a wildly kind of crazy psychotic conservative anymore. You even got to go even further, you know? And I just think it's really upsetting. You know, that's cool. That's cool.
Thank you, man.
All right, you pour a pint with a lot of head. Rock and roll. Lindsey Graham, you guys.
Suddenly, I found myself at the My Country, My Vote immigration reform / voter registration rally. But the GOP primary candidates loathe immigrants. I completely lost my way.
Why is this event being called the My Country, My Vote rally?
It was an event that was put together to kind of answer the xenophobia that's run rampant in this country about our Latino communities.
Well, I know that I can't be xenophobic because I can't spell it, so I can't be it. Would you agree that U.S. foreign policy in Latin America historically has brought nothing but peace and prosperity to the region?
Have you heard of NAFTA?
As you guys know, in America, the divorce rate is considerably over 50%. That being said, why do immigrant children feel entitled to get to have two parents be allowed to stay in this country when native-born kids oftentimes only have one parent?
That's a really convoluted, detailed question.
This political cycle has been dominated by a very problematic narrative in which our cultures and identities are disparaged and minimized and treated in a very negative light. And so this is supposed to be a dignified response to the way in which we are treated in both mainstream and extremist political discourse.
Comprehensive immigration reform in 2016. I have to admit, hanging out with a bunch of Latino people was super fun. It's almost like they're human beings in America. But I didn't have time to think about that. I had to get to the Republican debate. Donald Trump might be saying some calculated insanity that us media types are supposed to cover like it's the liberation of France.
How long will we go on defending South Korea from North Korea without payment?
But I still couldn't quite get there. It turns out a bunch of UC Boulder students were having a protest called Our Future, Our Choice.
So we decided to name it Our Future, Our Choice because we are the youth and the future is going to be ours, and we don't think that the candidates in the GOP presidential debate are considering that and considering our opinions.
It's just really frustrating for us to be completely shut out of the process on our own university. We're giving them this thing for practically free. We're paying for extra security for them. And what do we get? Locked out here.
Lots of issues and concerns that we have that are just being swept under the rug and not addressed. Things like climate change, workers' rights, immigrant rights, minority rights, LGBTQ rights. All of these things are just being totally dismissed.
Would you say you guys, your main issue is you're concerned with making sure that there's tax breaks for the rich so their wealth can trickle down to give you a job and give you a chance at a future?
No, that's not what I agree with at all.
Donald Trump, you're fired! Yeah! Oh, finally! I made it to the Republican presidential primary debates. Whatever. I mean, who cares? It's just a bunch of elites trying to convince another bunch of elites that they're most elite of elites, right? I mean, this is the least important. Reporting from Boulder, John F. O'Donnell, Redacted Tonight.
We'll be back in a minute, but watch this first commercial. It could change your life or death.
Losing a loved one is devastating, especially when you find out the costs of burial. There's nothing more disgusting than people trying to grab your wallet after your beloved has passed. Money's the last thing on your mind during that difficult time. That's why you need to buy a gravesite from us today. Don't wait, death could happen any moment. Grab a plot, pick a plot, snag one for your kids. They're gonna die too. We have big holes, little holes, ditches, craters, pits, pockets, sockets, tunnels, caves, caverns, and abysses. Abyssi? Why spend a fortune on a gargantuan grave when we'll set you up with a humble headstone? It's a customized M&M. You can even rent to own. Pay for the first 6 months of your burial, then you can pay month to month. If you don't have the money, it gets kind of ugly. We have to send our repo guys, and you're put up for auction. Bids are usually pretty low. Call now, and we'll throw your partner in there for free.
Many people don't think about it ahead of time. We did. This is a second marriage for both of us. We wanted to be together.
Keep the romance alive after death. Save a plot. Worried all the good spots are taken? Every 3 years, we bury the entire cemetery and start fresh. It's like a layer cake of corpses. Feeling thrifty? Call now for the DYOG. Dig your own grave. Just dig, lay down, and wait for death to find you. He always does. Can't afford a fancy casket? Join our posthumous nudist colony. It's not a mass grave, it's a sleepy orgy. Save, save, save! Call 1-800-DIE-EASY. Why put off tomorrow when you could die today? Save a plot. Eternal resting places. For less!
Welcome back, welcome back. Breaking news. Chevron executives are assholes of the highest order. I mean, prime cut, single malt, top shelf, sushi grade assholes. If a dickhead could be an asshole, they'd be both. Perhaps I should give the backstory here. Chevron has been in a 22-year legal battle with villagers from the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador. I mean, we've all been there, right? Those villagers, they're awful. This battle stems from Texaco spilling 18 billion gallons of toxic sludge in the pristine Amazon. If you're like me, you immediately wonder, how does one spill 18 billion gallons? Was there an employee standing there going, oh no, not good? How long do I have to do this? 25 years! Oh, no. But no, the reality is that Texaco did it intentionally. And now they're owned by Chevron. Their shellacking of the rainforest with their demon seed not only killed the environment, but also gave the locals cancer and birth defects. Then the Ecuadorians won a lawsuit. They won restitution to the tune of $18 billion. Justice was served. But Chevron realized Lady Justice may be blind, but her nose works great. So if you dump a bunch of bullshit on her scale, she gets totally thrown off. So they sued the Ecuadorian villagers. Chevron sued the victims of their own toxic dumping. Are you f***ing kidding me? Are you Darth Vader on his worst day, during his pedophile years, would have looked at that and gone, dear God, have you no soul? And Chevron won that lawsuit because they had Lady Justice tied up in the trunk of their car. Much of Chevron's case rested on a star witness, Alberto Guerra, a former Ecuadorian judge. And this week, we found out that Guerra has admitted to an international tribunal that large parts of his sworn testimony were exaggerated, and in other cases, simply not true. And do you think he lied in court because he just hates rainforests? He can't stand fresh air and spider monkeys. No, he did it because Chevron paid him a lot of money. Basically, Chevron's whole lawsuit is crap, and they should pay the Ecuadorians the money they owe them for destroying their goddamn lives. But as Chevron's general counsel Charles James said, Chevron will fight until hell freezes over and then skate on the ice. And while I get his point, I don't think that makes any sense, right? The point of the expression is that you'll never stop fighting because hell won't freeze over. But skating on the ice doesn't, add anything. You know, no one said you can fight until hell freezes over, and then if it does, you can only keep fighting if you know how to skate. Otherwise, you'll fall over and blow out a knee. And see, no one said that. Saying the part about skating is it's like saying I'll make out with you when pigs fly, and then I'll get on their backs and fly to where I'm going on a pig if there's somewhere to park my pig. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the point is, despite Chevron's membership in the ruling party of our inverted totalitarianism, it looks like we, the people, and the Ecuadorians may just win this one. We shift now to renowned physicist Stephen Hawking. He has said in a recent interview that the growing use of machine labor may mean an end to not just human jobs, but human rights altogether. However, he's not talking about a robot uprising. Instead, he's talking about unfettered capitalism. But what does Hawking know? He's just one of the smartest humans. I mean, his thoughts are probably clouded by all those other thoughts, right? We should take economic advice from someone whose mind is hardly clouded by any thoughts, right? That's the way to do it. Here to help us understand this whole issue is senior techno-economist Carlos Delgado. Carlos! How you doing?
Thanks for having me, Lee. Yeah. First, I'd like to set the record straight. The Terminator is way more dangerous than capitalism, okay? One is a ruthless, unstoppable, unyielding machine that doesn't care how many die in pursuit of its goal. And the other is a killer robot, okay?
It's a fair point. But in our context, capitalism owns the killer robot, so that's a huge problem.
Look, take it easy, John Connor, all right? Look, not all wealth is kept by the 1%. Some of the greatest minds of our time have not only made a fortune from technology, but shared their innovations and wealth with the world. Just look at Nikola Tesla, Jonas Salk, Eric Zimmerman.
Eric Zimmerman?
Yes, Eric Zimmerman, inventor of the Trongs, the 3-pronged plastic pincers you use to eat buffalo wings so you don't get your fingers dirty.
Seriously?
Come on, Lee, I thought you had your pincer on the pulse. Look!
Trongs are great for eating messy so-called finger foods.
Like buffalo wings.
And barbecue ribs.
Trongs' teeth tear wings apart.
And they rip ribs right off the rack.
Trongs are awesome for eating sushi.
Trongs are like chopsticks on steroids.
More like genius on steroids, huh?
Yeah, awesome. So you're saying Mr. Trong there gives his pincers away for free? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're making stupid money. But Bill Gates, a.k.a. Kid Charity, pledged to invest $2 billion of his own money on green energy research and urged his fellow private sector billionaires to help make the U.S. fossil-free by 2050.
That's great, but the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has $1.4 billion invested in oil, in big oil. So isn't that completely contradictory?
Well, it may seem contradictory, Lee, but our country is based on the proud tradition of saying one thing and then doing another. Like the other day, I was at a coffee shop and I said I would watch a woman's laptop. Instead, I left. I don't have time for that. Plus, now I have a new laptop. Look, sometimes you gotta giveth, and sometimes you gotta taketh away.
Well done, well done. But hold on, back to Gates here. Kayaktivists in Seattle are protesting his refusal to divest from fossil fuels by paddling up to his private
beachfront property, Lee.
Yeah.
It's barbaric, okay? I mean, to hit a man where it hurts the most, his view? It's unacceptable. If it wasn't for Bill Gates, kayaks wouldn't even exist.
Kayaks have been around for centuries.
Oh, those are real kayaks. I thought they were holographic, like Tupac.
Look, you have to admit, despite the efforts of Hawking or Gates...
Or Eric Zimmerman, inventor of the Trongs.
Or Zimmerman.
Inventor of the Trongs.
Inventor of the Trongs, fine. You have to admit, unfettered capitalism is a threat to not just our climate, but also our livelihoods.
Maybe you're right.
I'm damn right. If we want to ensure corporations don't drive this planet off a cliff, then we can't just rely on experts and inventions. We all need to raise awareness, participate in activism, promote progressive legislation, right?
Sounds a lot like a three-pronged attack.
Jesus Christ. All right, Carlos Delgado, everybody. These are your headlines from the future. Coming up tomorrow, Republican candidates furious at liberal media for accurately relaying their stupid comments. And in 2 weeks, you'll learn Chevron takes out full-page ad in Ecuadorian newspaper looking for new bribe-friendly judges. And big news coming up will be revealed in December. Trongs successfully keep millions of American fingers clean for playing video games, rubbing their own balls while staring into the middle distance. It's very important, very important. That's our show. But we have live stand-up comedy events in New York City and Washington, D.C. For details, email redactedticks@gmail.com. Also, follow at FreeRevPinkney on Twitter for updates on Reverend Pinkney. Good night, and keep fighting!